Welcome back to Redefine Parenting with your host, Veenu Keller. We want to welcome you to Spanglish World Network and H.E.R Network on Zingo TV, channels 250 and 251. Zingo TV is a free app that can be downloaded on iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure to rate and leave a comment. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire and Fire Sticks, Roku and Roku Sticks, and all smart TVs 2016 and forward. Redefine Parenting is a revolutionary approach to nurturing our children. Veenu will bring you live experts, transformative insights, and a fresh perspective, all aimed at helping families worldwide truly understand their children. Together, let's give them a childhood they won't have to heal from. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Redefine Parenting. I am so excited because I have one of my very special friends and guests to be here today. And it's interesting because I'm one of those people that I have a strategy of convincer strategy of two. So that means that it takes me a couple times to hear something. And when I hear it, I'm like, okay, I need to know more about it. And it was so funny because I was in this group and they started talking about human design. And I'm like, oh, I think I've heard about that before. And then I'm in this other group called Your Best Life Mastermind. It's like a huge, beautiful community I get to be a part of. And then all of a sudden, I see my friend who's coming on today, Katie Carlson, who's coming to talk about the human design. So I was like, oh my gosh, okay, that's twice. Now I got to dive into it. So now I've dove down the rabbit hole. And Katie, thank you so much for being here and getting to share with millions of our guests all over the world today about the human design and the effects that we can see in ourselves and with our parenting. So I'm just going to hand it over to you.
Yeah, well, thank you. I'm so energized to be here. Excited we were able to make this work.
Yes.
And share this awesomeness with the world. So people are probably asking themselves, what the heck is human design? So human design at like the grassroots, and I'm going to try to explain this in very simple, like simplistic form. Human design takes in ancient wisdom, the I Ching, the Kabbalah, and the chakra system, and basically gives you an output. If you go and like search on Google, human design, what is human design? You're going to get a lot of words that doesn't make a lot of sense. But what it is really at the simplistic form is it shows how our energy is meant to show up in this world. And it calculates this based in which the time and place in which we were born. So it has like that component of astrology that comes in. And Veenu, I always like to say like, I'm half woo, half do, because I believe in like practical applications. And I also believe in the spiritual components of like understanding our divinity and our life's work and our life path. One of the most incredible things about human design, as I started diving into human design and looking at it, is that it gives you a really powerful understanding of how your own energy shows up, as well as other people, based on certain characteristics or different themes within a chart. Now, if we went through everything in human design, we would be here for, hours and hours, like probably even months, honestly, at this point. There's so many different components and there's so many different flavors within human design. But when we look at human design in the most practical form, one of the best ways to understand it is through our type, through our strategy and authority, and then our profile. So what does that mean? There are 5 types within human design. So the first type is a generator. Veenu and myself, we are both generators. So generators, like with Veenu and I are in a room together or on a TV show together, there's going to be a lot of energy. People are naturally going to be drawn in to our energy. And generators are meant to respond to the energy of their environment. We're here truly to respond. So for generators, it's going to be really important to have really strong boundaries, because generators, they can get really excited about one thing and go over here, go over there, go over there. Like everybody wants our energy, especially when I talk to you about projectors, but I'll get there in a minute. When generators designs, or when a generator's energy is out of whack, our first initial thought is going to go to frustration. Doesn't mean that we don't get angry or bitter or disappointed. It's just like that initial thing is going to be frustration. When generator's energy is in alignment, and if you're first hearing about human design right now and you just somehow find your chart online, because you can go Google your chart online anywhere to get it for free, and you're a generator, you're going to be like, okay, what is this? It says signature. when generators' energy is in alignment, you're going to feel satisfied. So I don't know about you, Veenu, but like for me, like when I feel satisfied, it's like I've checked off things from the list. Like I've been really productive. Like I've been able, it's in the act of doing something because our energy gets literally energized and re-energized by doing things that we love.
Absolutely.
Generators are the only type on the planet, kid you not, that are meant to follow their joy. Truly. Not that everybody else is not meant to follow their joy. It's just following it in a different path.
Right.
But if generators are not lit up by what they're doing, we can get really frustrated and our energy will get out of alignment. So I always tell generators or anybody that I'm working with, like, if you're a generator, what's something that you can do that'll bring you satisfaction? For me, this can be as small as like, I don't drink coffee, but going to a coffee shop and having a coffee made for me with cinnamon on top. I'm like, that brings me satisfaction. It's like, I can get my energy back into alignment. Does that resonate with you, Veenu?
Absolutely. I'm just thinking like just being with community and like being fun and like everything that I enjoy doing when I'm in it, nothing else matters. And it like literally recharges me.
Yeah, it recharges you. And that's why like we can go and do these events and we're around community all the time. And like it truly recharges our sacral energy that we have.
Yes.
The second type is literally quite the opposite. It's the manifester. The manifester, so you can think of manifester energy as kind of like Moses in the Red Sea. It's like repelling, right? There's this kind of like repelling aura. It doesn't mean that it's bad. It's just very focused on where it's going, right? So manifestors are meant to initiate. They're meant to initiate and inform. They are here to break down barriers, be leaders in their own right, like literally shift a paradigm of the traditional way of thinking that maybe hasn't necessarily been created yet. And I know we know many manifestors in our world, and manifestors, when their energy is in alignment, they experience this like beautiful inner peace. When their energy is out of alignment, they experience like their initial response will be anger. And the other real key with anybody that's a manifester, they're not meant to work long hours. Veenu, like you and I, when we're doing what we love, we can go for hours. We'll forget to eat. We'll forget to pee. We'll forget to drink water. Like we'll forget to do all these different things, right? Manifestors are very different. Manifestors, they can do like bursts of energy, but then they need to rest. So their energy is very cyclical. So I always think like, especially like when you think about a child manifestor, like my nephew, I have a nephew that's a manifestor and he is hilarious. He's a toddler, but all he does is eat, sleep, and poop. And he sleeps a lot. And I know that that's most children, but he kind of just has his own path. He does his own thing. He's very independent and they have a different way of looking at things. And we relate it to parents. Like if you're parenting a manifestor, give them the space. Give them the space that they need.
It's funny that you said that because my twins are manifestors.
They're manifesting generators, right?
Right.
So they're in between. I'll explain what that is.
Yeah. And so, but what you're saying is they like the all attention. And my daughter, the girl twin, she will start a game and then she's like, okay, I'm done. We're like, so we don't even like playing with her because she will like get out of the game after 50. And like, it's like, we're right in the thick of it. Like we're having fun, all of us. And she's like, oh gosh, I think I'm done. I'm going to go lay down and watch TV. And I'm like, so what you're explaining is like she gets in with excitement. And then like 15 minutes later, she goes, okay, I'm done.
Yes. So what's really fast, and I love that you brought this up because that's like a perfect bridge. So the third type is a manifesting generator, which is what your twins are. So here's the thing about a manifesting generator. So the generator, big energy, right? And it's a gift kind of to be both, but it's also, there's opportunities to grow with it as well. So like generators, big energy, right? But if they flip to the manifestor side, they're going to have this like repelling energy. So that's when they really need to like rest and relax and kind of, reset their energy.
I just totally want to just jump in here because you're going to get a kick out of this. So the twins just went back to school on Tuesday. They've been out for 3 weeks because of go year-round school. I literally just saw her an hour ago, right before I got on the show. And she goes, Mom, can I tell you what Sunday is? I am so excited about Sunday. I'm like, what? She goes, it is the day that when you look for me, I'm going to be in my bed, in my pajamas, watching TV all day. It is a recharge day. Like,
that is a manifestor owning their manifestorness. A lot of manifestors are very misunderstood. They're very, very misunderstood because they kind of beat to their own drum when they're in that manifestor piece. And it's not a bad drum. So as like parents are out there, if you have a manifestor child, like recognize that they are going to be a little bit different. And there's a uniqueness about them that's like, just love that uniqueness and then give them the space to be themselves. Truly, like give them the space to be themselves. Like I know oftentimes like when we're parenting and we all want to we want to create like a system, right? Like we want to create some sort of order, right? And make things happen because it makes it a little bit easier. However, manifestors will completely mess that up. And again, it's not in a bad way. It's just recognizing that a manifestor's energy works very differently. Like they work in cycles.
She doesn't like a lot of structure. It's funny because her brother does, right? Her twin brother does. But like even her room, she's like, I don't understand why I have to keep my room clean. Like it's my room and I don't understand. And like she'll wear like stained clothes when we're going out to dinner. And I'm like, why are we wearing like she's like, but what does it matter if I have stained clothes on? I'm probably gonna spill food on me anyway.
Yeah. She's like carving her own path.
She absolutely. When she wanted green hair, like underneath, I let her do it. And my mom was like, I can't believe you let her do it. I'm like, but that's what she wanted. She wanted to experience that. And so we do try to allow her to create her style, whatever she wants. I put a halt to the nose ring right now because she's only 11, but she's already like, okay, when I'm 14, that's what I'm getting. She can already literally see what makes her feel comfortable, and comfortable trumps anything else in her life.
That is okay. So this is another piece of the manifestors. They have this ability to see things that maybe not all the other types will see in a certain way. So it doesn't mean that generators and the other types, they don't see certain things, but manifestors, they're going to look at something completely different and like carve the most unique path that they can. And then other people may follow suit, but they're going to be the trailblazers. They're going to be the ones that initiate it all the time. And that's really living in their zone of genius. So when we look at, the generators and the manifestors, when you take them together, right, and they're a blend of the two, they have this ability to kind of collapse time in a way where, she wanted the green hair, right? She's going to get it. It's going to happen quickly, right? It's going to happen fast, right? She's going to make these decisions very, very quickly. And that's a great muscle, especially to build as a child, because as you move through life, right? Like more and more things are going to come up, and the ability to create discernment and understand what's going to serve you best is ultimately, going to serve them long term. So it's interesting though, when we look at the not self theme. So when their energy is out of alignment, when a manifesting generator is out of alignment, they could experience frustration or anger.
A lot of anger.
So that when that happens, if they're a manifesting generator and they are experiencing more anger, they likely are exhibiting more manifestor energy at that time. That doesn't mean that it will always be there. It just means like they're in a cycle of that kind of manifesting energy, which means they probably need a nap. Probably need a nap.
Good to know. I'm going to take some notes. This is good. This is good. Good stuff.
Probably need a nap. And then if the generator is exhausted and tired, then they're not necessarily doing things that they love. And so when a generator gets sleepy, or for your twins, the manifesting generators, if they're not doing what they love, like they're going to ultimately they'll be tired. They'll be like, I don't want to do this anymore. And it'll be more like a lethargy versus like, I want to take a nap. Does that make sense? Kind of like the difference. Yeah. So the fourth type is a projector. Now, projector's energy is very much in front of the body. It is very much just like, and you can feel it. Like you can legitimately feel it in front of your body. Projector, especially projector children and even adults, projectors are here to speak, but they're here to wait for the invitation. So people are probably like, what the heck does that mean? Projectors have this ability to kind of see above the fray. They can see the bigger picture of what's being orchestrated or calculated around them. Now, the beauty of this is that if the projector comes in and is working with a generator, or if you have like a projector child and a generator child, they can like feed off of each other's energy. If the generator's having fun, the projector can keep the generator can keep the projector child going, like just keep going. Similar to the manifester child or even adult, the projector, they need rest. They don't have the battery pack that the generators or the manifesting generators have, or really even the fire that a manifester has. So they have to not necessarily like latch on to other people, but they need other people around them so that they can support their own energy. Otherwise, they're going to be tired and exhausted all the time. When projectors' energy is out of alignment, they get really bitter. So you probably know I think of it as like they get really prickly, right? They're just kind of like hot stove, right? Like they're just like,
don't touch.
Don't touch me, like leave me alone. They're that kind of thing. When projectors' energies aligned, and this is true for kids and adults, they're going to feel this like ultimate success. Like, yes, like I did it. I made this happen, right? Like what I said made sense to someone. I always tell this because I have a nephew that is also, I have a projector nephew. I've got a bunch of different nephews, but my projector nephew, it's really interesting because he likes to speak up about things. And it's in the past, it's kind of been, he'll speak up about things and we're like, where is this coming from?
Right.
What are you talking about? And it doesn't really make sense until like 10 minutes later when we finally get what he's talking about. But what's interesting, if it's not well received, the projector energy will get off. Like it just, they'll start to get really bitter and prickly and kind of that hot stove feeling. The gift, if you're a parent, if you have a projector child, ask them questions, invite in their opinion on things.
Nice.
Even if you don't agree with it, you don't have to agree with it. Invite in their opinion, because more often than not, they have seen, like they're seeing something that not everybody else is seeing. A lot of times projectors see things way before any of the other types, and it doesn't make sense. And so then a lot of times it won't land.
So even like manifestors, because you said manifestors can actually see things outside the box. Like
they do, because they're initiating a completely new path. Whereas like a projector may not initiate a new path. They like visually can see the bigger picture. They can visually see the system. They may not be able to see how to carve the path. The manifestor will figure out how to carve the path. Like they'll just do it. They're like they can be like that bulldozer. And when they are committed to something, but the projector will have insights. It's really about insights. Projectors, and then like again, if you're a parent, one of the things, like I even do this with my nephew. I'll be like, Thomas, tell me about what you're learning in regards to the Revolutionary War,
right,
or whatever, and having him share his insights and around that, like it actually fuels that projector energy because they don't have the battery pack that the generator has, or the manifester, because they have that like igniter. And so they need to be invited to speak, because if they speak and it's not going to land, like their energy will get off and it just becomes really uncomfortable. The last type, the fifth type, and it makes a very, very small percentage of the population, is the reflector. Now, the reflector reflects the energy, very similar to what it sounds like, reflects the energy of their environment. Now, what's interesting about this, especially when you look at children are naturally just like absorbing everything, right? You're taking in all of the things. You kind of look at the reflectors. You can almost look at children as they all have a lot of like reflector energy in them. But reflectors, then as they grow up and age, their energies are going to change dramatically. You may see dramatic shifts in their energy. And it's not necessarily that it's a bad thing. It's just it's based on their environment. So as a reflector, maybe goes from elementary school into middle school, you notice a dramatic shift in their energy. Likely it's an environmental change, right? There's something that's different. And again, asking questions, reflectors will be great with answering questions. And they truly, I think one of the biggest gifts that a parent can give a reflector is honoring what they say, right? Mm-hmm. And not making it wrong, but just realizing, interesting, okay, this is how this is making you feel. Like, how can we, move through this particular situation or circumstance. And when you know this about your children, it makes it so much easier. Plus, as a parent or as an adult, even just understanding how your own energy may be different than your children's energy, it creates an even stronger connection, because there's a level of understanding that you may not otherwise get to. This, to me, it collapses time to understand like how you best can support their own energy. Like I know, Veenu, we talked about this offline at one point. You're a 1-3 in the profile. I mentioned profile. Profile is how we interact with the world. It's the energies that we exude and how we really just move throughout space and time. I'm also a 1-3, and 1-3s, they have this depth of knowledge. Like they love going deep down rabbit holes and researching and doing all these things, which is wonderful, which is incredible, right? If you have a 1-3 and they're a generator, let's say, even if you just take the type out of it and you're connecting with a 4-6, they're going to have very different agendas about things. And what does this mean? So I'll go through the lines maybe, and this will help.
Sure. Yeah.
So when we look at a profile, it's made up of 2 different lines. Everybody has 2 different lines, and there's 6 different lines. So there's 12 different profiles that you can actually combine and make up. The first profile is the 1-3, and that's what you and I are. The 1-3, well, I'll just go through the numbers. The 1 is the researcher. They're like the people that like, they want to go down, they want to go deep into understanding what's going on. They want to get to the root. They're naturally curious. They love to learn, like to a fault at points, because they can get so fascinated by all these different things and they want to go down all the different rabbit holes. The gift in this is that they can bring a depth and a breadth of knowledge that not everybody else can, which is, obviously very powerful. If you have a 1 in your profile, this would be a 4-1 profile, a 1-3, 4-1, 1-4. I think that's it. So the 1 is like all about the research, getting down and dirty and understanding how things work.
So these numbers only go with certain combos though, right? Like, so there would never be like a 1-8 or a 1-6.
No. So there's, there's 12 different profiles. The 1-3, the 4-1, and 1-4 are the only ones with 1s in them. Yeah. I think I'm doing this off the top. No, 5-1. 5-1 can have. And
does it matter if the 1 comes before the 4 or the 4?
It does.
Okay.
It does, but not to get like too into the weeds on this, but yes, it does. So for instance, 1-3 and a 5-1, very good friend of ours, Mateen. He's a 5-1. I'm a 1-3. We geek out on human design. I taught him about human design. It was hilarious how that happened. But I, even just looking at his design, when I was telling him about himself, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm basically creating another monster, because he's going to want to understand more about this. The 1 in the first position is going to be very much active researching. Like it's very much a known thing. It's very conscious to that person. The 1 in the second position is more unconscious. It's more like, you may have conscious awareness to it, but it's more like you kind of do it under the table, right? Like people know that you know a lot of information, but you're not as like
boisterous about it. You're probably not boisterous about it. You're not like, hey, let me tell you, I got this. Like, oh, I just found out this new thing I want to tell everybody about.
Yes.
Since you're on my show right now, because I found out, I'm like, oh, you got to come on and teach my millions of viewers about the human design.
Yeah. And so really, if you look at like the differences in any of the numbers, like if you have whatever the first number is, like, so if it's a 1-3 or a 2-4 or a 4-6, the first number is going to be, you're going to have more conscious awareness of how you show up in that regard. The second number is more subconscious. It's more like kind of the underlying, the innate ability to do certain things. So with that said, I'll go to the number 2. So the number 2 is the hermit genius. It's kind of the natural. They have this ability to really download information and just like synthesize it like so eloquently and so beautifully. They need their alone time though. What's interesting is my fiance, who Steve, is a 6-2. So he needs his alone time, and he has this incredible way of like, he'll be introduced to a concept And it's like, he understands it like that. And I'm like, it's going to take me like 15, 20 minutes going down the rabbit hole before I'm like, wait, what?
Right.
You know, like, I don't get it.
Because you have to experience it.
I have to experience it. And that gets to number 3. That's a perfect bridge to number 3. So the third line is the strategist, scientist. If you look at it in human design terms, they call it the martyr. I don't like to call it that because I like to look at it as like the phoenix, because the third line has incredible knowledge base, but literally lives life through this like trial and error process. So if you have a child, okay, with a third line or has a 6 in their profile, it's because the 6th line lives the first 30 years as a line 3. And there always will be some line 3 kind of throughout their world. It's not about making mistakes. It's about, what did you learn? What did you learn? Even if they're like, we're all going to make mistakes, but it's that language, right? It's, what did you learn from this?
It's so funny when I do my coaching.
Yeah.
You know, and people, like I say, like it's not trauma. It's an experience we had. It's not good. It's not bad.
Yeah.
And it's not finding the gift. It's finding the wisdom. What did you learn from it? What did you gather from it? Like, that is one of my key lines, which is funny because I'm a 3.
Yeah.
And it came natural to me. It came natural that is how we moved through anything that we considered trauma, is really about gathering the wisdom from that experience and seeing it as just an experience from a bird's eye view.
Yeah.
So there's no emotional attachment to that experience. And what did we gain from the wisdom of it to move forward?
Yeah. And because you've lived it, it's much more natural for you.
Yes.
So like, if you're dealing with, if you have children, right? That, I mean, I know for me, like some of the conditioning that I had to kind of move through, like I was always wrong as a child. Like I made, like, it was everything that I did was a mistake. And legitimately everything that I did, I was making a mistake, but I didn't realize, and literally until I came up with human design, and I mean, some of the other personal development things, but I was like, oh my gosh, there's a reason to this, because the line 3 literally learns what not to do by learning what not to do. And I say this with a caveat. That doesn't mean that they have a free pass to like go and wreak havoc on things, because that's a whole nother thing. That's a whole nother issue. However, what it does mean is that when there are consequences, right, to those actions, asking them, get them to verbalize, get them to feel it in their body. Line 3s are incredibly kinesthetic. They have to feel everything. And they will. And one other thing about line 3s, and this is, I guess, you know, it's kind of funny. And even like looking back on my childhood, I was thinking about this. Like, I've always had so many different friend groups. And I've always, like, no matter where I go, I've always been able to make friends. And even if some of my friends, like, I kind of lose touch with over time a little bit, it doesn't matter, because like the line 3s are about making and breaking bonds. And it sounds a little weird, but let me explain this. Line 3s have this ability to connect with people in a very, very deep-rooted way because they've experienced so much.
Yes.
Could be the good, but it also could be the not so great, right? And because of that, people are naturally going to be drawn to line 3s for their experience and their own knowledge of certain things. Because of that, and then if you think about it, like energy, right? Like that's a lot to carry. If we're carrying a bag, right? Like we all have a bag, we all have pasts, we all have things that have happened into our life that have shaped us into who we are, right? At the same token, there may be a time in your life where, like, even like my best friends, like early high school years, I'm not as close to anymore. Now, if they called me, would I be there in a heartbeat? Absolutely. But I would say that like the bond isn't as strong as it used to be. And that doesn't make it wrong or bad. Now, the main difference of this, and this is going to be a really powerful piece to the next number, is where this is different. Whereas like the next number is a line 4. So your twins are line 4s. Line 4s, they may be really picky and choosy about who they spend their time with, but there is going to be a continuity of longevity for anyone that they that they choose to have in their world. There's going to be this consistent kind of longevity, and that like there's a value on relationships, on friendships, on the network and the tribe that they're surrounding themselves in.
What do they call the number 4?
So the number 4 is the opportunist networker. So, and I look at and it's kind of a couple different ways. So if you have the 4 in the first position, it's more conscious. And it's also like, it's that they're the resourcer. They have this ability to have like resources. Like we all know those people where it's like, oh, I can call so-and-so and they'll be able to connect me with so-and-so, right? They have this, like they may have multiple different touch points, or they may have multiple different, buckets of resources that they can share with a lot of different people. And the 4, again, kind of contrasting the difference between the 3, whereas like your twins, they may or they may not, but they may have the same friends, like close friends for like their entire lifetime. Whereas like the 3, they're going to constantly be making and breaking bonds, meaning I'm going to meet new people. I'm going to connect with people. I'm going to have new experiences, because that energy of the 3 is like we rise from what is broken. Right. Kind of like the phoenix rising all the time. Again, because why? We're trying on all these different things, right? We're doing this trial and error process.
Yeah, it's like nothing brings us down. Like we're going to get right back up.
No, we're going to get right back up. The 4 line though needs this consistency. Like there's an underlying consistency that is needed in the 4 line. And so when you think about this from like a parent and a child perspective, the 4 line is going to need groundedness. Like there's a groundedness that's going to need to come from the parent, because they're not going to have like that experience necessarily, but the being grounded in whatever that is. It could be like a community of sorts, or there's got to be some sort of foundational post that they can always come back to. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
It does.
The line 5 is the heretic or hero. Now this line is very interesting. The line 5, a lot of times will get projected on by other people. They'll get blamed for a lot of things. And it's also kind of by design, because they similarly, in like when I was talking about projectors and even really manifestors, they have this way of like looking at things and being like, no, I'm going to find a new way. I'm going to shift a paradigm. Most line 5s, whether it's in your first position or your second position, they are going to have a different worldview, a different perspective on life that they're going to bring to the world. And it's up to them to be able to bring it. So if you're a line 5 and you're a generator, it's going to be really important for you to, there's a lot of components that go into this, but a line 5 is a generator. That's going to be someone that's going to be actively doing things to support like a different way of thinking. And as a parent to a child, it's not making him wrong, right? It's like, oh, I haven't considered that. That's an interesting perspective there.
That's like the curiosity component comes in, right? Be curious, not critical, which I tell everyone, be curious, not critical. And this really, if you have a number 5, is really going to support them.
Yes.
Because then they're not feeling wrong. So I wonder if like Elon Musk was a 5 somewhere.
He's a 5-1. He's a 5-1.
Which is so funny that you described this, because I could have told you he was a 5-1.
Yeah.
It's from that, because he's brought so much into the world.
Yeah.
That he's like catapulted, the theories and thoughts into what we're doing now.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's truly what they're here. And I have his chart actually in my system. It's pretty fascinating. And so one of the things that's also really different. So when we look at the 5 line versus the 6 line, one of the things it's really different about the 5 line is the 5 line kind of takes an approach of like, and we look at this from like children, there's going to be a thread of consistency in terms of like their friends, but they're not going to be afraid to speak up, voice their opinion. But the 6 line is going to come off very different. The 6 line is kind of like, okay, I've learned that, I've conquered that. What's next? I want to move to the next thing. The 6 line is always kind of looking for the next thing to master.
And what's the name of that?
So the 6 line is the role model. And I'll be honest, the first time I learned human design, I was like, I don't like what this says. Like what is the first, I don't even remember what the main, because I've created new names for them, but I was like, I'm a 1-3. Like, this is awful. Like, I don't want to be a 1-3. Like, I hate this. And I hated my design, guys. I was like, I don't like this. This is awful. I don't want to be this. I have all this openness. And then I was like, oh, actually the openness is where my courage comes in. And that's where my gift of like being able to connect with people comes in. And it just took me a while to like actually understand that there's always the flip side to everything.
Right.
And then like you look at the role model, like you look at the 4-6, like when I first started learning about human design, I was like, I wish I was a 4-6. Like, I just feel like 4-6 is Tony Robbins is a 4-6. He's a manifesting generator 4-6. I was like, I want to be a 4-6 because it felt like, oh, that's the people because they're a role model. Here's the thing. We're all role models at the end of the day. The 6 line, the reason why, like Steve, my fiance, he's a 6 line, and that can be seen because he's a Gemini, so he has multiple sides.
Are my twins 4-6?
Yes.
And they're manifestors.
Manifesting generators.
Like Tony Robbins.
Yeah. I mean, well, no, they're literally, that's Tony's. I mean, I could actually compare their charts at some point. But what's interesting though, when we look at the 6, like they're more calculated especially than the 3. Like they're going to be more calculated. But it's all through experience. So you got to remember 6 lines live their first basically like 30-ish plus years as a line 3.
But you know what? Let's just like look at Tony Robbins for a minute. Because you and I have like grown up our adulthood, right? Like for me, my later adulthood into that. And watching Tony now, like, know, where he started and how he created. And now it's just reiterating what he's known like after the first 30 years.
Yeah.
And now it's like, boom, he has his programs and he makes them better. But it's the same patterns because it's like, he's already tried it. He's already seen what worked.
Yep.
For the first 30 years, like you said.
Yeah.
It's almost like the dabbler. It's almost the dabbler of like, what are we doing to create this? What do we need to do to create that? And now you've figured it out. You know what works. You're going to stick with it now.
Yeah. And so it's kind of like they've been able to hone their process. And this is why Tony continues to grow. And like, this is also what helps him in terms of like innovating, right? Like COVID actually helped him.
Oh,
like
totally.
Tons, because, and that actually speaks to his 6 line because he's refined these certain processes. And then he's able to like say, okay, I'm going to go to this next step and I'm going to refine and hone in on this. So the 6 line, there's a refinement that comes with the 6 line. Like even, so Steve, he's, very polished, right? Like, like he's very polished.
Yeah.
I am not like at all. Like we could not be more different, but that's actually, I think, why it works.
Right.
Because we're so different in that regard. But it's like, it's being able to appreciate that. So like one of the things, I mean, again, that I love about human design, even from like, as parents understanding about their children, but then also like talking to them about this, like it also helps them understand themselves too. Right. Like, a lot of times children, they just want to be heard. They need to be seen.
Absolutely.
They need to be heard. And a lot of times it's like, we all like, we go through this life and it's like, we need to get there's all this validation that's happening. Right. And we're constantly getting all this different types of validation. What if we validated ourselves? Right. What if we didn't need all that external validation? And I'm not saying that external validation is not necessary in times. And like, we all need that support. 110%. And at the same time, you start to build that muscle, knowing who you are and realizing you can say no, right? And move forward in the path that you desire to. Like before we started this, I pulled up your daughter's chart. Okay. And it was really interesting because I didn't have a ton of time to look at it. But one of the things that's fascinating is, and I was just kind of sharing this with Veenu. I was like, well, she's going to be like, there's going to be this feeling that she's selfish. Okay. And it's not selfish though. It's all about a perspective, right? Nothing means anything until the meaning that we give it. However, she has active energy in her top 4 gates, which again, I don't want to get too down in the details of it, but one of them is in gate 10. This is going to be her greatest opportunity to grow. Her greatest opportunity is going to be how to work through selfishness and her own self and how to love herself through it. Because she's going to feel the urge to kind of carve her own path. I mean, she's got that manifestorness in her. She's going to have, like, she's going to be that little spitfire. And at the same time, it's about how does she love herself through those changes? How is she going to be able to like support that? Because as you know, right, as we go through childhood and adolescence and into an adulthood, the world is different than we grew up in. And you're going to be faced with certain things. And I think the more that we have an awareness and understanding of how we can support ourselves, right? How best we can support ourselves, the better off we are, the better discernment we'll be able to create.
Is there more numbers between 1 through 6? Is there like 7, 8, 9 or no?
No, it's just 1 through 6.
So let me ask you this. Okay, great. So we have like the profile numbers now. So my question is, you know, kind of like, you know about the disc, right? And as long as you have like, you know, your numbers above the mean, you have portions of that, and that's what the disc is. The higher the number are, the more you have that in you. Does it work this way too? Because some of the things that you were talking about, like even the opportunist, like I see a lot of these different ones in me as well.
Oh yeah,
I'm definitely, and just, I don't know if this makes you feel better, but when I found out I was a 1-3-2, I was like, oh, I want to be a 4-6. I was the same way. And then you told me it was you. I'm like, oh wait, no. I like being a 1-3 because Katie's a 1-3.
Yeah, but it's a thing. I think all 1-3s have to go through this.
But you know what? I mean, just knowing you, because you're such a beautiful soul that comes from your heart, and the way you serve is just so selfless. And so when you're like, oh, I'm 1-3-2, I'm like, okay, then it must not be that bad. It must be a good one.
Yes. So to answer what you're saying, I think I know where you're going with this. So yes, we all have different components of this. And actually, I can pull up your chart too. What's interesting is depending on, and I don't know if I shared this with you last time offline, but we all have, so there's 64 different gates within the human design. And when you get your human design chart, what happens is you'll see like some colors, you'll see like a bunch of numbers, and you'll be like, what the heck does this? I always tell people, just go get it read by someone that knows what they're doing. Like It's a lot easier that way. Don't try to decipher it on your own, because you'll be there for hours. But I say all this because even in our human design, we actually will touch all of the different energies in like the 64 gates, even if we're not active in it all the time, because the moon, the planets, everything is cycling all the different times. So depending on the transit, so like right now, every single person is going to have activation in gate 51, which is in our ego center. Okay. This is kind of like, it's like this jolt of thunder. It's this ability to kind of like change things in an instant. Like something may drop out, something may pop in very quickly during this time frame. I don't normally have this gate defined, and you don't either, but it's in the ego and it's in the heart center. So there could be this like extra surge of like, oh, I want to do this, or oh, I need to get this done, or whatever. That energy is not active in us normally, but we can access it now. Same thing with the profiles. So like, depending on every time that you look at a number on your human design, on the columns of your human design, there's going to be a number, a decimal point, and then another number. Depending on whatever, like you could be in Mars or Jupiter or Neptune, whatever it is on your chart. It could be a .3, it could be a .4, it could be a .6. It's still going to have the same themes of the 1 through 6. So for instance, Veenu, I'm just going to look at something on, okay. Oh, perfect. So on your chart, I don't know if I'm able to share my screen. Am I able to share my screen?
I don't know, but we'll just talk about it anyway.
I'll just talk about it. Yeah. So in your chart under the Jupiter, so Jupiter means prosperity. And it also, depending on where it is in your chart, it also can be indicative of like how best your work culture should be set up, or how best you thrive in your own work culture. You have the fifth line in that gate. So what that tells me, and I'm not making this up, guys, and I literally was not planning to talk about this, but this is crazy. You legitimately have line 5 in your design Jupiter, which is about speaking to the masses. What are you doing right now? Like, what is this TV show? Like this, you can't make this up. Like, it's insane. It's absolutely insane to see this. Like, the fact, I was not planning to bring this up, but that's what you're meant to do. Line 5. Legitimately. Like, you're meant to speak to the masses. And as you speak to the masses, you're going to have more energy. And that's literally linked directly to your prosperity. Now, there is a component in your personality side, so the right-hand side of your chart, that is in the line 4, which in that particular part of the chart is about charity and giving. So it's about supporting other people. So I don't know if you have a nonprofit yet.
No, not yet. But what's interesting is, like, you know, when we create our goals and what we want, the abundance isn't necessarily for my lifestyle. The abundance is so I can give out.
Yeah.
You know, like,
and that's the energy that fuels you.
Correct. It's that full cycle of give and take, give and take, give and take. Yep. That charges me. It's not just what can I get and hoard it away and buy all this lavish stuff. It's what can I get, create the life I want, and what can I also give out?
Yeah.
You know, like how much free stuff I do, how much pro bono stuff I do, just because it fills my heart. Like, I have so many people like, I can't believe you got on a call with me. You're not going to charge me. I was like, no, like, I just want to help you save your child at this point. You're telling me your child is not getting out of bed, they're depressed, or they're suicidal. I want to help you get your child in movement, get their body moving, get them moving, get their mind moving. And I'm not going to charge you for that in that moment.
Yeah.
You know, because that's just where my heart is. It's definitely giving and making it better. So it's interesting. So I know we only have a few moments, and what I would love to do, Katie, is actually bring you back, because people can listen to this show and start to understand just the different profiles, you know, the 5 different types.
Yeah.
And then maybe we can come back at another time and you can talk about the correlation of, you know, when we grow up as a parent like this, how it reflects and how do we help? Because, like, you gave some great things, like when you said, you know, the opportunist needs to be grounded and it's to their parent. And, you know, I think you said the 5, you have to be curious.
Yeah.
You know, like the 5 needs to be curious. And so you gave them, like, the 4 needs the questions. You know, you got to ask them better questions. So it's their idea, not your idea.
Yeah.
And so, like, you've given already some amazing strategies. And so what I'd like to know is, and I'll put this in my YouTube channel and on my Facebook, how can people find you? Because everybody, Katie is amazing. Like, please, I invite you, go do a session with her. Go click on her link. I'll put it in all my social media. Get a session with Katie. Like, let her go through this human design and spend that time with you. Especially, like, this has already helped me, Katie, and you and I were talking offline, is how it's already shifted my parenting with my daughter and, like, the different things I'm doing now, because she is a 4/6 and she does have that big energy, and everyone's like, she's just like you. And honestly, in my mind, when I was doing her human design, I'm thinking, oh, she's going to be a 1/3 because everyone sees she's like me. I see some of the things that she does as a child that I did, that I wanted to stop her from doing, because I didn't want her to go through the same issues, because I've already lived it, done it. It doesn't feel good. So let me stop it. And in turn, I was actually creating that in her by trying to stop it, because she too has to live through that experience, which you so kindly said the first 30 years is going to be like that for her.
It's going to be like that.
You know,
it's very trial and error.
So we'll definitely bring Katie on. If you're hearing this, please listen to it. You know, you can go online and do your free human design, but like Katie said, contact her. She will make time, you know, setting a coaching appointment with her. She's a great coach that's able to coach you from your human design and really figure out where your gaps are. And like she said, you can't make this stuff up, because it's literally from the day you're born, the time you're born. There's no, that's what I love. It's like what you know and what's the woo stuff, it kind of comes together, and the scientifically comes together, right? So, Katie, as we're just wrapping up now, can you just, like, what's one thing that you would love to leave our listeners with?
honor you, get to know yourself, get curious about who you are. And a lot of times the things that we don't like about ourselves is just because we've gotten it shut down by someone else outside of ourselves. And it's actually one of your beautiful gifts. So much of human design unleashes the gifts in people, and seeing that validation, I think, really allows people to excel, increase their energy, and just live a better life, truly.
I love it. I love it. And how can people find you?
Yes, you can find me on Facebook, Katie Carlson, on Instagram as well. My website is highenergykc.com, and you can also pull a free chart at highenergykc.com/free chart. So
there you go. Thank you so much, Katie.
You're so welcome. Thank you.
We'll see you back.
Bye.
For joining us on another episode of Redefine Parenting with Veenu Keller. Follow her on Instagram at Veenu Inspires. To learn more about Veenu, as well as download her free ebook now, go to www.veenuinspires.com. This show can also be heard on Spanglish Radio Network. Please check out www.spanglishworld.ca for all your news and programming. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it.